2 weeks ago, Salinas residents were shocked when they learned that a family of 3 had been murdered and a baby seriously wounded. Salinas police believe 3 suspects in connection with that case may have fled to their native Mexico. In part 1 of her series, Running South, Rose Dean talks to the state agents who track fugitives south of the border. Rose is just back from the border. She has a story from the news desk. Rose.
Well, Elizabeth, if local detectives believe suspects are hiding out in Mexico, they are powerless to pursue them because their badges are meaningless there. And that's where the Office of Foreign Prosecution comes in. The U.S.-Mexico border can be the passageway to freedom for Mexican nationals wanted for crimes in the United States. But a trip south of the border doesn't guarantee a fugitive will escape the law's reach. From a San Diego high-rise, Enrique Mercado and Ernest Duran begin their search for suspects, accused criminals who have typically slipped into Mexico and vanished.
The Salinas case, we've got an inquiry.
Their 2-man unit is called the Office of Foreign Prosecutions. They act as a liaison between the state of California and international law enforcement agencies for pursuing criminals abroad, mostly in Mexico. They handle about 20 cases a year for the state attorney general's office, and they expect by January they'll be opening another case on the November 16th triple homicide in Salinas. The 3 triggermen are believed to be in Mexico.
Generally, Mexico has been very responsive. They will, after the warrant has been issued by the magistrate, they will generally get on the trail and they'll start actively looking for the suspect.
Escaping to Mexico is as easy as walking through a border turnstile. And once in, the odds are in the fugitive's favor for eluding justice. Mexico just doesn't have sophisticated criminal tracking systems like the U.S. So the agents can't take a case to Mexico unless they have certain information.
Most importantly, a specific location where the suspect can be apprehended in Mexico.
So you have different suspects and different crimes and a huge foreign country. What is the common denominator with all these cases?
The natural instinct, obviously, is that when you commit a crime, you certainly want to return where you feel safe. And a lot of these, typically, a suspect return back to their home country and their hometown.
And that's mostly where the arrests are made?
Generally, yes.
The office started filing cases in 1981. Out of 172, they've arrested 32 suspects. They'd like a better success rate, but they say they can't apply American standards to a country without the same resources.
You're dealing with a foreign country, so obviously you're dealing with a different system. That's not to say that they're not applying any attention to these cases. It's just that the process and the system may be a little slower than we are accustomed to.
Tomorrow in Part 2, the agents explain why they're lobbying to expand the program. And in Part 3, we'll take a look at a high-profile Salinas case that even America's Most Wanted couldn't crack, but the Office of Foreign Prosecutions did. Elizabeth?
Okay, thank you very much, Rose.
In Part 2 of her series, Running South, Rose Dean tells us that agents have so many cases, they're barely keeping up. Rose is at the news desk with more. Rose?
Well, Carmine, when a Mexican citizen commits a crime in Los Angeles and flees home, that city has 6 agents to act as liaisons with the Mexican government. But there are only 2 agents in the Office of Foreign Prosecutions, and they handle the entire state, plus requests from other police departments across the country as well. As more Mexicans cross the border to California, the rate of crime committed by Mexican nationals has increased as well. And while those numbers rise, the Office of Foreign Prosecutions has stayed a 2-man operation for years, staffed by agents Enrique Mercado and Ernest Duran.
I'll say about 4 years ago, we're talking about 8-10 cases. Now we're looking at 20 cases plus a year.
Most of the fugitives who flee over the border are suspected of murder. Duran and Mercado have also gone after rapists, child molesters, and kidnappers, but homicide is their #1 priority. They just don't have the manpower to handle all the cases. And when a Mexican fugitive crosses the border and returns home, American law enforcement just can't storm in John Wayne style and make arrests. So Mercado and Duran need to blend diplomacy with their sleuthing skills. Working with Mexican authorities, they say, takes a lot of patience because sometimes they do a lot of waiting around.
For example, they work from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. and from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. that's lunchtime for them, and then we'll return back at 6 p.m. and work until 9.
And they just don't work different hours, they work differently. Mexican police posed this suspected murderer with his gun after they arrested him. Duran and Mercado say what's inappropriate here may be fair game abroad. Now, if you did that, what would happen?
Well, I'll probably be working for a hamburger place, probably McDonald's.
Since California was the first state to create a liaison program, the agents have wound up helping police departments in Washington, Oregon, and Florida. Now other states are considering following California's lead.
And lately, other border states have made their inquiries that they want to implement their own program, very, very similar to ours.
Now the agents hope their success will convince lawmakers to expand the program. They've lobbied Sacramento before, only to be turned down, but they say they have more than enough work for the 4 agents they hope to add. Tomorrow, a young Salinas man should have been celebrating his 17th birthday, but 4 years ago, Rubin Morfin was murdered, another victim of gang violence. Tomorrow, in part 3 of our series, Running South, we'll see how the Office of Foreign Prosecutions helped track his killer down.
This week, reporter Rose Dean has been profiling the agents who track fugitives south of the border. Tonight, in the final part of her series, Running South, Rose looks at a 4-year-old Salinas case that's finally been solved. Rose has more from the news desk. Rose?
Well, Carmine, today Rubin Morfin would have turned 17 years old, but 4 years ago this month, the boy's life was cut short when he was caught in the crossfire of Salinas' gang warfare. And finally, his alleged killer is behind bars. Family and friends called Rubin Morfin Pee-wee because he was so small, and he will forever stay that way in their memories. The 13-year-old boy was gunned down on the night of December 29, 1991, mistaken as a gang member. His mother says her pain will never go away.
And I've had dreams about him, you know, after he died, and in his dreams he always tells me how happy he is, and not to be crying.
Some say there's a civil war going on in Salinas, California. It's a turf war.
America's Most Wanted took on the case when 3 years later it remained unsolved. A Fox television crew came to town and recreated the shooting, hoping someone somewhere in the U.S. would recognize the alleged shooter, a Mexican national named Ezequiel Mariscal.
Ready, and fire! Okay, let's do it again.
In the meantime, the agents in the Office of Foreign Prosecutions had alerted Mexican authorities that Mariscal might be at home. This past July, they received a letter that he was finally caught in the state of Jalisco. He is now awaiting trial.
We feel good about it because the program does work. The process is working. It would not have worked without the fullest cooperation of the Republic of Mexico.
But the agents mistakenly did not notify authorities in Salinas. So Morfin didn't find out about Mariscal's arrest until told a few days ago by KCBA.
I was shocked when you told me because I really didn't know. I have different reactions to it because I'm sort of happy that he's finally behind bars. Because I think I've always waited for this day. But I don't know if by him being arrested in Mexico there will be justice.
Under Mexican law, their citizens are tried at home for crimes committed abroad. And according to the Office of Foreign Prosecutions, when convicted, criminals will not have an easy time incarcerated in Mexico.
The prisoners don't have maybe the type of the rights or the privileges that prisoners enjoy here. You might say in plain terms, they're going to be serving some real hard time in Mexico.
While Morfin would rather have Mariscal tried here, she is grateful that the Office of Foreign Prosecutions took on her son's case.
I'm just glad they did go into there, and I wish they would do it more often, you know, because there's so many people getting away.
Today, like every year on Rubin's birthday, Morfin brings flowers to his grave and holds a rosary for him in her home. Amen.
And now the man in the story said they served some hard time.
Get about 40 years to life with